it's Jenna, and this week's topic, if I can get my boy out of the way, this week's topic is going to be on transition and money. Thank you very much, Puma. Get down. He wants to transition. This week's topic is going to be on transition and money, and transition is built up of many components, and some of it is monetary and some of it has expense that's not monetary. I'm going to confine my conversation today to the monetary side. I was lucky that I was able to, I had a good job, I maintained my job, and I was lucky to have saved a lot of money over the years and was able to pay for my surgeries and transitional costs outside of surgeries, the hormones and the doctors and the therapist. So the monetary portion of transition for me was far exceeding the cash value or just the surgery. I think when I look back at it and added some numbers up a couple times, that the other expenses were every bit as much as electrolysis, all these components that go into a transition if you want to become a little bit more invisible. Some people don't care. Me, my age, some people know who I am and some don't. I don't pretend to hide, and it's kind of like why I'm visible on TransByDef. I feel a strong need to give back to the community that helped me when I was first stepping out, nervous and scared and thinking I was all by myself, even though I knew there was transgender people out there. So for financially speaking, not everyone can afford to spend a lot of money. And not everybody is going to transition completely. Transition is what you want it to be, not what somebody else expects it to be. Some people don't do anything. Some people do hormones. There's various stages, as we know, in the transgender spectrum. For me, transition was an all or nothing deal. I wanted everything. I wanted to be somewhat invisible if I needed to be in public. I don't work on my voice anymore. It's actually kind of reverted back more to what it was previously. Not as much, but it's somewhere in the middle now. Transition for me included, and cost, the transition that had monetary costs were, the hormones, the doctor visits, the FFS that I did with a surgeon in California that many of you know, the GRS, CGS, SRS, whatever we're calling it this week, my gender reassignment surgery, confirmation surgery, that was part of the expense. Breast augmentation, I wasted a whole lot of money on having facial hair removed. Not that I had a lot, but I did have some. So those monetary things, in my instance, added up over $100,000. And I ended up taking loans towards the end to pay for that. Now, not everybody does that. Everybody has to do that. Some people are fortunate that they work for a company that has insurance that will allow for that. And come on, Pope. And that's not the same for everybody. In my instance, it was all out of pocket. He's going to be a pain in the ass. He's going to be my star now. So for me, money was not going to be an issue with transition. My biggest fear is that something would happen that I would get stuck in the middle of what where I thought I wanted to be ending up at. I went through as many of us do, through a a divorce that was emotionally fraught. I had kids, and I had to make sure that there was money for them, and all that kind of good stuff. So for me, that was a very stressful period. The finances of it just added to the stress of where I was going to be and what that transition was going to cost me. The other cost outside the physical body cost of that transition was having money to live somewhere, being able to pay my bills, car insurance, gas, life insurance, health insurance, electric, rent. At that point, I rented a home because I didn't know where I was going to end up. So those hidden costs there are all part of that transitional cost. Now, a lot of people, for me, I was, like I said, I was very afraid that I wasn't going to get through this all the way, and I was terrified of my ex somehow blocking my efforts to do a transition successfully that was, in my eyes, what my transition should be. So those things were all very, very frightening. There were things that I talked about with my therapist, but when it comes to finances, it's very, and I'm sharing this with TBD, when I'm still uncomfortable about it. Finances are a very personal issue that are different for everyone, and as is the how far you're going in a transition or what you can afford to transition if you are going to do that. So, how do you save? I mean, it's a lot of money. I'm hoping that somewhere down the line, the government with this healthcare insurance for people that can't afford it will be able to provide for transgender people to have the surgeries they need and want. For me, I'm still recovering financially from the money I pulled out of my retirement and other investments to help me stay hidden. So it's really difficult to give somebody advice or share experience with someone that maybe not having any maybe not even having a job, let alone the money to buy hormones or to transition in any single way. So some people, will find a place, and that's personal for each and every one of us, to find a place that we can transition to where we are, we're comfortable up here. And like I said, that money, a lot of us don't have the funds to transition, and we don't have the funds to feed ourselves. So when it comes to finances and transition, it's scary. I mean, some people don't have jobs and they're selling their bodies to make ends meet. So the financial aspect of this is frightening. I have my fingers crossed for everyone out there that if this national insurance comes through, that you will be able to utilize that to transition. One of the things that allowed me to spend a little bit more money was knowing that on the backside that I was going to be able to deduct the medical cost associated with transition from my taxes. So that actually gave me a pretty good bump in the arm, some extra finances to help pay for things along the way. But I did take loans, 2 of them, matter of fact. If you're going to go down this path, you have to really, it's something like obviously you discuss with your therapist, but if you're going to go down this path, you have to have a realistic view of what you can afford and where you're going to transition to and what that's going to cost, and try to come up with a plan for it. That's not always easy. It's, like I said, I was very fortunate, and that's not the case for all of us. So this transition and money is just, it's probably, when you come down to it, other than coming out, how you're going to do this, it's probably real high up there on the list of things to consider. Besides being homeless, where are you going to be comfortable, and how are you going to finance that? I can't even fathom what it would be like to not have a job, or have a job that didn't have benefits or didn't pay well enough that I could even put money away towards that. You know, young people, you know, have a better you know, a better chance at saving long term and getting through it. Where old people, maybe like myself, I transitioned. You know, I started the process in my mid-40s. People like myself might be a little bit more financially secure and willing to use those financial resources that you've saved to pay for a transition. Next week he's going to make the video because he's just aggravating me to death. So I would, you know, if you're young, come up with a game plan and a time plan, and not just do it by the seat of the pants, but come up with a realistic goal of where you want to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, wherever you want to be in the long term with your transition, and how financially you're going to pay for that, how you're going to get it there, if you're going to transition at all. Some people are really comfortable with, you know, having a nose job, having a trach shave, doing some hormones, and they're fine. And some people, that's all they need. But for me, I really needed to do everything, and that was, you know, frightening. Though I was able to pull it off, and you know, but it took me some years to get all that done, even though I had the resources. So I would come up with a written plan. I'm trying to think of the girl that has a YouTube page that had a plan. She wrote down how she was going to do everything, how she was going to do a budget for her life, how she was going to structure this change, and she had it written out for 10 years, which was, I kind of found that to be a really good base to start from, and her expectations were reasonable. Some of you may have seen that video. I don't recall her name off the top of my head. So that's kind of like where my thoughts are on this topic. I'm sure that some of our younger folks will chime in with you know, what they are considering and what they're going to do and how they're going to pay for it. In my instance, having been in my mid-40s when I started to transition, I was more established financially, so the financial money part of it was kind of there. And I'm grateful it was. My biggest fear was, it was getting caught in the middle somewhere and not being able to complete the surgeries that I needed to get done. So I would give it a lot of thought and bounce, like I said, again, therapist. Harley and I started, by just experimenting, and probably that wasn't smart. But come up with a plan, how you're going to do it, write up a 3, 4, 5 year plan, and what your income is, and how you're going to pay for portions of it, and go from there. Maybe a secondary job, maybe postponing coming out, maybe postponing any kind of surgery work. You really have to look at the bigger picture when you're doing this. So, sorry for the interruptions with my Puma boy. I will look forward to everyone else's opinions, thoughts, and their experiences, and respond accordingly. Let me know what you think. I really, love to hear what people that are on the other side of the camera think of these things. So share with us all, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks. Peace. Bye.